All right, everyone, we should be live. Let's make sure that's actually the case over on Rumble, of course. It is Friday, TGIF. Yes, indeed. Got to do a shit ton of gardening. Got to soak the garden. Got to mow the garden. I'm probably going to use a sod tiller and eliminate all of the grass for next year. I'll be expanding further. I'm tired of dealing with that shit. Witch grass is no joke. Then I've got to fertilize it. And then I've got to do some more weeding. Yeah, it's going to be a difficult afternoon, and thankfully it's a little bit cooler now. The heat wave is still here, but it's a little bit less than before. We've got to talk about Katie Hobbs. Hobbs' veto of China's organ harvesting bill spurs questions, more than a few questions in this particular case. I think it's quite clear that somebody's been taking money from Beijing. Adolf Hitler drank water. It's a common fallacy. Adam Schiff weighing in here, of course, Pussyface himself. The Appeal to Heaven flag was carried by rioters at the Capitol on January 6th. It was also flown, apparently, for months outside of Samuel Alito's other home. It's yet another demonstration of his clear bias, and it demands his recusal from Jan 6 related cases. The liberals are doing the runaround on this. It's not working very well, as people are pointing out. The actual historicity of the Appeal to Heaven flag, the actual historicity of him flying his U.S. flag upside down, comporting, by the way, to flag code and everything else. We'll talk about that. Marijuana use has now apparently surpassed booze use in the United States. People are getting high instead of getting drunk. They're still relying on substances. I'm anti-drug war, disclaimer, but yeah, I mean, you shouldn't smoke weed either. It's not necessarily a waste of money, basically. Doesn't even get you high for very long. It's not very powerful. There's a new methodology that they're experimenting with to treat leukemia. Of course, in leukemia, when a person generally gets a transplant of bone marrow, they're looking into other ways to potentially proactively fight leukemia, which is a big advance potentially, because getting a bone marrow transplant, I'm assuming, is not particularly pleasant. Just saying. Human body lice could harbor the plague and spread it through biting. Special glands in the head can house plague bacteria. Thankfully, plague tends to be not generally ubiquitous these days. In most parts of the world, Yersinia pestis is not particularly common. Still, it crops up occasionally in rodent populations out in the Rocky Mountain region in the United States, a few other regions, but mostly we've tamped down on it. Should try to eliminate it entirely, but that curing disease doesn't make you any money. And also some ancient Mycenaean armor tested by Marines, not U.S. Marines, but rather Greek Marines, and pronounced suitable for extended combat. This is a very, very interesting archaeological case. We'll go through that as well. Mina Bukowski, I still love my weed. Yeah, it's better than boozing up, definitely. I mean, it's 0 calorie, but yeah. Swamp Donkey, have you seen Candace Owens attacking the ADL about their inception? Their defense of Leo Frank, a pedo. Also, any update on Brandon Herrera in Texas? I haven't seen any more Texas polling for the Brandon Herrera campaign. I haven't seen that. And no, I didn't see Owens in the ADL either. But the ADL does deserve ire for what they represent. Mainly censorship. They're a deeply anti-American organization and should be labeled so. Musically assured destruction. Sticks, what are your thoughts on the Justice's Alito flag controversy? We'll be talking about that. But the neoliberals are so upset about. Would love to see a separate video. I think I made a New Tech exclusive on the basic premise a couple days ago, actually. You must follow me on BitChute and Rumble. Mike the Womp, Clank mofos. Homework assignment for all you is to listen to George Carlin's bit Fear of Germs and then realize it came out 20 years before Honk Honk. And remember, there is no wrong hole. Depends on what hole it is. But yeah, Carlin got it right. Sassmaster, what will make libs finally get out of the bubble they have been living in since Obama was elected? Economic crisis? Yeah, people vote with their wallet more than anything else. We're not hoping for an economic downturn, but it would definitely shift the political winds. Mark Frigola, I can make edibles, which doesn't waste any THC. Never used an edible, actually. I did smoke weed for a while. I can't anymore after my overdose on spice, but I was never terribly into it. I preferred much stronger psychedelics like Salvia divinorum, LSD, and things like that. Webster's Wares. Good morning, Clankers. Happy Friday. Clank, baby. Yeah, baby. Anyways, we'll get to Katie Hobbs first. There was a bill that was organized in order to in Arizona, and also there's a separate Idaho bill, and Katie Hobbs vetoed it. And what it would have done is it would have banned money basically going to countries that engage in organ harvesting, and notably the nation of China. They're estimating that some tens of thousands of people every year are killed in China, and their organs are harvested and then sold. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry at this point. The April 10th veto has proponents of the legislation and human rights activists scratching their heads. Not mine, though. I'll get into why that is. Over the last year, Texas, Utah, and Idaho have enacted similar legislation, and legislatures in Missouri, Ohio, and North Carolina are debating similar measures. The bipartisan bills, actual bipartisan bills, like good ones, you don't see them very often, by the way, would prevent health insurance plans from reimbursing individuals for any organ transplants in China or other U.S. adversaries. They also would bar insurance payments for post-operative procedures related to organ transplants if the organ came from China or any other nation that funds or engages in forced organ harvesting. What they do is you go to the gulag and then they kill you and they take your organs. Happens quite often, unfortunately. It happens to the Tibetans, especially, to Uyghurs, people within the Islamic regions of China, and to dissidents in general, regardless of your ethnicity. If you spoke out against the Chi-Com regime, you might end up with no kidneys. You don't live long if you have no kidneys, by the way. For years, this is a quote, "We've known that China is engaged in the despicable and ghoulish practice of forced organ harvesting. We also know that the victims of this crime are most often religious minorities and political dissidents. Sadly, the beneficiaries are usually wealthy patients who may not know the details of the illegal practice. Still, their ignorance does not excuse them from being complicit in this crime against humanity." Well, if they're totally ignorant of it, then I wouldn't fault them. But most people do know that in China, if you're getting a heart or a lung or something like that, it probably was cut out of a person who was very much awake at the time that it was cut out of them. They're not exactly going to bother wasting any anesthetic on you. After all, you're going to die anyway. It's sort of Pol Pot-esque. The funny thing is, when you look at the veto, which is like a 3-sentence response about it, it's about how the entry about Chinese-made genetic testing equipment, that was the problem. That's the reason why the veto shouldn't go through. That was Katie Hobbs' explanation, Democratic governor of Arizona, and also roaring bitch, by the way. The problem is that the bill actually addresses that issue to the satisfaction of any reasonable person. I think Katie Hobbs must be invested with the Chinese. She's a pawn of Beijing. It doesn't surprise me in the least, by the way. It's China, not Russia, that primarily influences U.S. foreign and domestic policy with regards to economic issues of this nature. Foreign policy in the military and diplomatic sense, there are other countries that have undue influence in the United States. That's something that East blockers will talk about all day. They have a big problem about it. But then when it comes to China, they'll tell me that no, indeed, China does not harvest the organs of Falun Gong members. Well, yes, it does. It's been pretty well documented. By the way, Katie Hobbs' office didn't even respond to queries from the media. From the legacy media, which also has Chinese ties, they wouldn't even answer them. So it's pretty damning. Doc Holliday. Sticks, did you see Dementia Joe thought he had to fart and shit his pants again? I didn't see that, no. Webster's Wares. If you purchase something from us at websterswares.com, join our loyalty program, earn points for sales offers, and climb tiers for buy one, get one free offers and free gifts. Sounds pretty cool. Musically assured destruction. That's what I get for not following you on alt tech. Just take my money. Thank you very much, but you should be following me on some combination of Rumble, BitChute, or Odyssey. Mike the Womp, when you eat the THC, your liver processes it into a different drug, and it may not sit well with the folks who like to smoke, for your information. Huh. Oh, I thought it was processed the same myself. Never used an edible. Never was really, I mean, when I was smoking weed, it was still illegal, so... Dinoside 13, I have my first date in over a year, and it's with a gal with great music taste, and she hates commies and wokeism as much as I do. Any advice, Sticks? Clank. Yeah, just be yourself, you know. If you can't be yourself with a date and you have to front or something like that, it's not going to lead to a long-term relationship that doesn't fall apart. Just be yourself, be brutally honest with other people, and somebody will accept you for who you really are. This can be a problem sometimes. Salte, hey Sticks, I made it to the Bronx rally yesterday. The crowd was amazing, full of energy, and notably diverse. There were more MAGA than counter-protesters. Well, yeah, it was like 25,000 people there, supposedly. The Biden, meanwhile, he would struggle to get like 2 people into a room that were willing to deal with his shit and actually listen to him. It'd be sort of like Chelsea Clinton with the broom closet interview that time. He has some problems. It's because Trump will say something zany. You know, if you go to a Trump rally, at some point he's going to say something that's off the chain, and you're sort of there for the moment because you know the legacy media immediately pounces and stuff. With Biden, it's going to be like something Patriot J6. He just mumbles his way through it. There's no energy whatsoever. Now we got to talk about Adam Schiff, though. This is pertinent to the Samuel Alito non-scandal with regards to his flag flying practices. He was flying a flag some time ago, an upside-down U.S. flag. By the way, that's allowed under flag code. It's a sign of distress. He was flying that because I guess he got into an altercation with a neighbor who presumptively called him a cunt or something along those lines. And I think that the idea is basically like the nation is going to hell. Here I am. I'm on the Supreme Court and I can't even walk the dog without somebody calling me names. And so clearly there's distress in the situation. Comports to flag code. It's a non-scandal, but they've been drumming it up as though for some reason that's a reason to recuse himself from the J6 cases. Now they're doing the same thing with his appeal to heaven flag. Now, this flag was literally commissioned and flown by George Washington. This is a Revolutionary era flag. Adam Schiff, by the way, is well aware of this. He's just being a bitch like usual. He's being a salty bitch. They're trying to get Alito to recuse himself because they want to be able to run roughshod over the J6 victims. The ones, by victims, I mean the people in solitary confinement right now on lesser crimes. They want to run roughshod over Trump. They want to run roughshod over liberty in general. These flags are Revolutionary era. And in the case of the inverted flag, it's just part of flag code and it has a symbolic meaning. What they're trying to do is connect this to J6 and say that Alito is tarnished and therefore must recuse because he's flying J6 flags, right? The problem is that that's not actually the case. For instance, the Appeal to Heaven flag, the Gadsden flag, all of these other flags that were flown that day, they predate J6 entirely. Flying a Trump flag. Well, Trump was indeed president of the United States before January 6, 2020, now wasn't he? And so it is an ex post facto attempt to make that link. I call this the Hitler drank water fallacy. We all know that particular concept. Hitler drank water. Therefore, if you drink water, you're basically a Nazi. I pointed that out. You know, Adam Schiff, I guess, is a member of the Nazi Party. I've seen him drinking water before. You can link any two things together, but oftentimes the original status of that thing, the symbol, the act, whatever it happens to be, is lost in translation for political reasons. So the fact that you would fly this flag doesn't have anything to do with J6. It could also be a revolutionary symbol, literally. I mean, that's the original purpose. The fact is that the J6ers were flying that flag because of that pseudo-revolutionary fervor. They felt that the election was being stolen, et cetera, et cetera. And so they flew the flag of distress. They flew Appeal to Heaven. They flew Gadsden, et cetera, to show their displeasure. That does not mean that that's where the idea of flying it comes from. If I erect a Gadsden flag in the front lawn, it doesn't necessarily mean that I sympathize with any particular group. It means that I'm flying a flag which has some sort of symbolic notion to me. An upside down flag. Maybe I'm having a bad day. I'm in distress. Hey, the US flag is saluting me upside down because my day fucking sucks. It's nothing to do with J6. You can fly a Confederate flag without being a Confederate or believing in slavery, believe it or not. Neighbors down there used to fly that. I think that the old lady who owned that property died, and I think that there's new owners now or something like that. They took that one down. I've got a flag of the Minutemen, the Commonwealth Minutemen from Fallout 4. If I fly that flag, it doesn't necessarily mean that I sided with their faction in the game. In fact, without mods, you'd be stupid to do so because their faction fucking sucks. Yeah, their little border stations that they set up are real well fortified with their fucking energy muskets. That makes a whole lot of sense. And it's best to go with the Brotherhood on that one. Moose, old Timmy Pool has an actual good episode today. Anti-communism with actual former CCP subjects. Good call for Beanie Man. Clank. Yeah, I don't get the hate for Tim Pool, but it is important to hear from people that actually were behind the Iron Curtain, because they can tell you flat out. Maybe they can convince some of the leftoids, hey, this may sound good on paper, but in principle, it's not actually a good idea. Toxic Mix. Love the dual streams of Jeremy, but you're both wrong about vinyl, though. Perceived better quality than digital is entirely psychological. The reverse is often true when it comes to high and low frequencies. I like the scratchy sound. It doesn't have anything to do with frequencies. I just like the sound. I like vinyl. I've got some. Senor Faces. Don't want to ruin your date, but have you seen Stephen Colbert's Skibbity Biden bid on his Legacy Media show? It is literally, hello, my fellow kids. How sad. Hal Coker, Salty Cracker says he'd love to do a stream with you if you'd wear your bathrobe. Clank. Tell him I say, yeah, that's fine. I've done that on videos anyway. Musically Assured Destruction. Morgan Spurlock of Supersize Me passed away. Oh, Morgan Spurlock? Just a sec. He died? He relapsed into eating too much McDonald's. Yes, breaking news in the last couple of hours. Morgan Spurlock is dead. Let's see. Do they have a cause of death? Let's see. Yeah, he got Me Too'd a while. He Me Too'd himself, actually. He was a dumbass to do so. No, apparently there's no cause of death. I'm just going to assume, he had a heart attack or something. From that burger that he ate back in 2004, probably. Now, that's sad. I liked Supersize Me. Yes, I realized that some of the content there was sort of unqualified bullshit, but he did definitely have a little bit of a social movement that he started. They did end the supersizing practice at McDonald's franchises. They then began offering salads and stuff, but they had more calories than the burgers did. So that was sort of a grift. That pie over there. After the BX rally, I believe we might see a repeat of 2016 where the Dems ignored the blue wall and lost it. If they blink and miss New York State, it'll be funny. The Democrats will win New York. That's beyond reckoning. The Republicans, there aren't enough Republicans in the state. Or even enough enthusiasm there. What I do think is it'll be closer, and New York is slowly going from very solidly blue to it's plausible mode, sort of like New Jersey appears to be going. The left wanted Texas to be the state to be doing that, to make that transference. It looks like it's going to be New York instead. So I guess we'll have to talk tomorrow about Morgan Spurlock. I've watched Supersize Me several times. It is a fascinating documentary. It's got some scientific flaws in it, but overall it was enjoyable to watch. Daily marijuana use, now more common than daily alcohol use in the U.S., new study finds. Daily and near-daily marijuana use, now more common. Alcohol is still more widely used, but 2022 was the first time this intensive level of marijuana use overtook high-frequency drinking, said the study's author, Jonathan Calkins, a cannabis policy researcher at Carnegie Mellon University. A good 40% of the current cannabis users are using it daily or near daily, a pattern that is more associated with tobacco use than typical alcohol use, Calkins said. The research, based on data from the National Survey on Drug Use and Health, was published Wednesday in the journal Addiction. The survey is a highly regarded source of estimates of tobacco, alcohol, and drug use in the United States. In 2022, so this is older data, and it takes a while to process it, an estimated 17.7 million people used marijuana daily or near daily, compared to 14.7 million daily or near daily drinkers, according to the study. Now, of course, you have to understand, using it daily, that's a big differential there. There's a big difference between, I drink every day. When I get home, I have a cold beer. And I lay away a 20 rack every single day. I liquefy my liver on a 24/7 basis. I get up in the middle of the night and I chug the whiskey. Those two things are not the same. They're both daily alcohol users, but the level being used is considerably different. Same is true of weed. Saying, I take a couple puffs after work to relax is a little bit different from, 420 blaze of weed, LMAO, and I smoke fucking constantly. That is not solved for here. And, oh, I love this, the drug war bullshit. High-frequency use also increases the risk of developing cannabis-associated psychosis, a severe condition where a person loses touch with reality. Yes, that is exceedingly rare, though, actually. I am not a fan of the drug war. Mike the Wop, Spurlock died of cancer surrounded by family in upstate New York. Oh, again, it was probably that one hamburger that he ate. Johnny Azul, do you know anything about LawTuber Nick Rekieta and how he's in jail right now? I did see that he was apparently in jail. I don't know any further details. I believe it was drug related. So this is probably a minor thing. I don't know. Again, I don't believe in the drug war, so I don't see the problem. OMG puppies. There is a good rebuttal of Super Size Me called Fat Head, featuring Weston Price, folks. Another good example of dueling documentaries is Gasland and Frack Nation. Interesting. I'll have to take a look at that. Fat Head with Weston Price. Barra, will Trump win Texas? Yes, absolutely. 100% chance. By the way, got to get to the merch shout-outs in a minute. Wasted Bonehead, good morning from the grave. Finally caught a live stream. Full month of McDonald's. Jesus Christ. He didn't make it the full month. Yeah, I think he quit on day 22 or thereabouts because he was starting to get symptoms of fatty liver disease, if I remember correctly. Webster's Wares, shout out to Scott for your sign up and order. Sticks, what is your favorite game sword? Want to get a full replica made for a giveaway? Like a sword from a video game? Let me think about that for a minute. I don't know. Maybe, maybe the style of a Chinese sword that was in Fallout 3. I liked the design of that one. Those looked cool. Anyways, let's get to our merch partners really quickly. We have pumpkinfirecrafts.us. Use code STICKS, of course, for a discount, and you can get bookmarks, keychains, belt chains, amulets, my favorite, engraved spoons, and more. Available now at pumpkinfirecrafts.us. We have BiltOnUSA.com, where Anton can hook you up with some delicious sweet meat. Carbonasi, bison, Wagyu, the whole 9 yards. Also has a bunch of other stuff available, teas and snacks, little candies and things like that. Various sausages and other goodies. I think you have to get some of them in store. I don't know if all of them ship, but domestic shipping is a thing for many of those. And also Stick, Sex, and Hammer mugs, tumblers, and shirts. We have Wicked Needle Embroidery.bigcartel.com, where you can get hats like I have worn in some of my videos. Just get a baseball cap with the Ouroboros logo on it. That'll keep your head cool when you're out, hopefully doing organic gardening. We have Heritage Heirloom Seed Company.com, land of the seed survival bucket. Many of the seeds are out back right now. After the stream, I have to drench everything because it's still hot and sunny. Also, the Stick, Sex, and Hammer Soapbox, cedar and clove and blueberry, actually, the scent that we went with that specific soap. There are other toiletries in the box as well. websterswares.com/sticks-wares, where you can get metal straws to save the turtles. You can also get many other things, all available now from Webster's Wares. Use code STICKS. Also a great deal of Trump merchandise available, various miscellanea, those little fire starters, which are good for survival situations. I'm going to gas one of those up and see how well it works, actually. It's come in handy. You're out in the woods and it starts raining. You need to get a fire going right quick. Jamandbean.com, JAMNbean.com, the land of Stick, Sex, and Hammer endorsed coffee and tea. Yes, it's all very good, but the Costa Rica blend will always be specifically mentioned. Yes, and not without good reason. Try it, and you'll see for yourself. MTPew, that is MTPEW.com, the land of bearded grizzly ammunition. There's range brass, and there's newly manufactured in various calibers, both rifle and pistol. And finally, BrickMuseum.com. Yes, they are open now in Bellaire, Ohio. It is a massive collection of Legos and Lego-related paraphernalia. If you do go there, make sure to say that Stick sent you. I'm thinking about maybe making a day trip over there myself because I always loved fucking Legos as a kid. Those are our merch partners. Well, merch partners and sponsors, basically. Just a second here. Oh, yeah. Researchers develop new method to remove blood cells in leukemia patients while building a new blood system. In aggressive cases of leukemia, the only chance for a cure is to replace the diseased blood system with a healthy one. Although the transplantation of donor blood stem cells is a well-established form of treatment, it is an onerous process for patients. Yes, it's a lengthy and I believe fairly painful actually as well. First, chemotherapy is used to remove the body's own blood stem cells as well as most of the blood cells themselves. Only then do the attending physicians intravenously administer the stem cells from a suitable donor to the patient. The procedure is associated with side effects and potential complications. The team led by Professor Lucas Jerker from the Department of Biomedicine at the University of Basel has taken a different approach. In their article, the team describes how all blood cells can be removed from a leukemia sufferer in a targeted manner while a new blood system is built up at the same time. Well, skipping that step would be nice for people, I'm assuming. The system established by the researchers in Jaker's team can be imagined as a mixing console, where a DJ gradually fades down the level of the first song while raising the volume of the second until the first track dies away completely and only the second is audible. The fading down process works as follows. Specific antibodies coupled to a cytotoxic drug recognize all blood cells in the patient's body based on a surface structure. The markers comment all the different types of blood cell, both healthy and diseased, but does not appear on other cells of the body. Bit by bit, the antibody drug conjugate therefore recognizes and destroys all cells of the diseased blood system. While this is taking place, the second song also starts. That is, the patient receives a transplant of new healthy blood cells from a suitable donor. To prevent the antibody drug conjugates from also attacking the new blood stem systems or the blood cells they produce, the researchers use genetic engineering techniques to modify the donor stem cells in a targeted manner. Specifically, they introduce a small change in the surface molecule so antibodies don't recognize the new blood cells. By the way, I would think that if you did that in a more advanced manner, you could probably prevent rejection altogether and not even have to take anti-rejection drugs. So that's good. For people with leukemia, a little bit more hope. I mean, getting blood cancer is not necessarily a pleasant thing. It's basically, oh shit, couldn't I have just gotten like a tumor in my muscle or something like that? Blood cancer is also, a lot of times kids get it, and so that's rather sad. The cancer wards are filled with them. Joe Schmo, good day. Sticks, what's your favorite national park? I don't know. I actually have never been to one, I guess. So I don't know. Burger Time, any thoughts on Dr. Hillman and his Lady Babylon channel and teaching? Never heard of that, actually. I think there's several chats over here, actually. Let me see. Wasted Bonehead, we lost the drug war when we started it. Honestly, if you want less drug addicts, make people happy. You want happy people, you have to stop fucking them over. The state will never not fuck you over. Agreed, if the population is under less stress, there's less of an impetus to use mind-altering substances. Mayor Mike, good morning, Tarl. I would do the Legend of Zelda sword from the original Nintendo game. It came out when I was 28. God, I'm old. Yeah, I remember playing that. I played the original Nintendo version. I like the Super Nintendo version was fantastic. I played that many times. Larkin Jones, how do so many people reconcile Marxist ideology with liberalism? Through cognitive dissonance. Webster's Wares, the Chinese officer's sword was thinking you would pick Fallout or Skyrim. Yes, the Chinese officer's sword from Fallout 3 I think would be a good one. Miku Huntu, hope Rekieta bounces back from the spiral he's in. Yeah, I don't know anything about that. Is he like on drugs constantly or something like that? He did get arrested, I guess. I don't keep the e-celeb sort of thing in mind, generally speaking. I don't keep up with the personal lives of other creators, generally. Wasted Bonehead, science news like this is so white pulling. Yeah, I think you mean white pilling, by the way. I like science news. The next one's a little bit less of a white pill, which is that human body lice can get plague. Yeah, that's nice to know, by the way. Rats and their fleas take a rat for spreading the plague, but lice that infest people may share the blame. Human body lice can harbor plague-causing bacteria and transmit the disease by biting, researchers reported on May 21st in PLOS Biology. Some studies have suggested that Yersinia pestis, the bacterium that causes plague, spread too quickly during the Black Death of 1346 to 53, and other outbreaks to be the sole work of rats and fleas. Human body lice, which feed on human blood, might be involved, but previous research found that the lice aren't very efficient at spreading the disease. Now, it turns out that actually they are. They are capable of spreading it. I think we have another piece of the puzzle of how the Black Plague did indeed spread so quickly. People were infested with lice back then. Even if the vector is less efficient, if the vector is literally everywhere, that could definitely help with some transmission. Although I do suspect that the plague outbreak back then in the medieval era was facilitated by other things as well. There are all sorts of weird stories from back then. The concept of the Grim Reaper, for example, is a bit of a transmogrification of something that was literally seen by people. They saw figures in black cloaks with strange devices of some sort spreading gas in the fields. Now, this could have been an extermination effort that was misconstrued by peasants that were illiterate, but I've always found that fascinating. You know, spreading some plague gas. So then it became a scythe because, you know, you use a scythe out in the wheat field. It's interesting also the fact that there was trade, especially seagoing, that was much more efficient than it had been a couple thousand years ago and much more profuse. Certainly didn't help to tamp down the plague. I've actually analyzed the suits and the methodologies used by plague doctors. And in my analysis, I found they would be pretty effective, actually, almost as effective as modern equipment at preventing infection, unless it was a rheumatic or rather pneumonic plague, in which case you're probably going to get infected. Impermeable leather and or wool suit, well, plague isn't getting through that. It's a primitive gas mask of sorts with the air taken in from behind and heavily filtered by antimicrobial plant compounds. That would have been somewhat effective. Would have been more effective than the modern surgical mask, actually, when you think about it. The fact that they prodded the patients and didn't touch them directly, that would have been helpful. The fact that the suit was effectively waterproof, that would have been helpful as well. I'm fascinated by the subject, actually. So it turns out that, yes, body lice and I guess potentially head lice, and, you know, little kids get that all the time, especially if they go to a public school. I wonder why. Those can actually transmit plague. We should probably be a little bit more worried about it. Since we know that it can go pandemic mode, we should probably target that disease for extermination, but that would, I guess, be too costly and time-consuming. Mike the Wop, you listen to the Misfits? Yes, sometimes. I enjoy Glenn Danzig's voice for silly B-rated horror subjects. Yeah, the Misfits are pretty cool. Mikuhuntu, alcoholism spiraled out of control. Maybe coke, too. I don't think as many people use cocaine. Johnny Azul, what's the greatest war movie ever? Zulu! Yes, indeed. The Longest Day would be a close second. I also like Sink the Bismarck. That's an old, slightly campy British movie, World War II era. It's about them attempting to sink the German ship Bismarck after it broke out of the straits into the shipping lanes. Mikuhuntu, words of advice for people struggling with drugs. Try not to do drugs and take it day by day. Tell yourself that you want to quit and go day by day. Don't think about it as, okay, I've quit cold turkey. Okay, that works sometimes. It doesn't work for everyone. Just say, I have chosen not to use drugs today. And then the next day, make the same choice. And after a few days, it gets easier each time. I've suffered with substance abuse myself before. Webster's Wares. We can do Zeta, Final Fantasy, Skyrim, Fallout, etc. Want the giveaway sword to be Sticks chosen, Sticks approved. Yeah, I'm thinking Chinese officer sword. There are all sorts of cool swords in Skyrim, though. Yeah, I guess I'd go with that one. A spear with a bayonet. I bet that was tedious. Like a pikeman. And now we've got ancient Mycenaean armor. I'm probably mispronouncing that, but don't judge me. I come from the other side of Vermont. I have a bit of a Connecticut River accent. Ancient Mycenaean armor tested by Marines, Greek Marines, and pronounced suitable for extended combat. This is a very interesting story. The armor was first discovered in 1960, right? So we're talking quite a while ago, 64 years. Apparently, it never really occurred to them. They had been debating the entire time whether this set of armor was ceremonial. So, you know, you'd wear it on a special occasion or you'd prop it up on a wooden, like a mannequin and put it on display, whether it was decorative / symbolic or whether it was actually battle armor. That is, that somebody would have worn this suit and actually gone into battle. It's one of the oldest known suits of European armor. A 3,500-year-old suit found near the village of Dendra, a few kilometers away from ancient Mycenae. Since its discovery in 1960, it has been unclear if this was a ceremonial suit or suitable for battle. How did they determine that it was suitable for battle? And apparently it is. They had somebody wear it and then march around and do battle things. And they found that it wouldn't have been a considerable hindrance. It would have been relatively, I mean, for body armor, metal armor, it would have been comfortable to wear. It was wearable. It wasn't too heavy or anything like that, and would have provided coverage. It would have provided protection to the wearer. It only took them 60 years to figure out that they should just have somebody wear it. I thought that this was funny as goddamn hell when I first read this on the Science News channel and page. I'm like, okay, you know, you could have had a 10th grader make that suggestion back in 1962 or something like that. Probably thought it was a bad idea. Oh my God, you might destroy this piece of battle armor that's literally made to absorb hits from arrows and swords and stuff. The authors recruited 13 volunteers from the Marines of the Hellenic Armed Forces, equipped them with replicas of the Dendra armor and Bronze Age weapons, and ran them through an 11-hour simulated Bronze Age combat protocol. I wonder what the MREs were like back then. Probably just rice or something. The combat situation was developed based on historical accounts from Homer's Iliad, along with additional physiological and environmental evidence to create the approximation of typical diet, activities, and maneuvers of the Mycenaean military. They never thought to do this before. I find that fascinating. How many other weird conundrums within archaeology could be solved by simply wielding a sword or putting on a piece of armor? The world may never know. It's interesting. The experiment found that the replicated Dendra armor did not limit a warrior's fighting ability or cause severe strain on the wearer. The results suggest that the Dendra armor was battle-worthy, implying that the Mycenaeans' powerful impact in Mediterranean history was due partly to their armor technology. It's fascinating. It's also fascinating they didn't think of that before. I think that was an oversight on multiple people administrating the museum in which this particularly sits. Andrew Von Halen, the Fathead documentary is free on YouTube. It was actually shadow banned for a while. That should give you a reason to see it. And fuck you, YouTube, for making me censor my comment. Interesting. I wonder, it's probably copyright related. Gerald Armstrong, Styx gets excited when the British Army sings Men of Harlech. E100 Omega, my friend is writing a book about debunking the party switch myth. It's pretty fascinating. The groundwork starts back in the 1800s. Do you want a copy to review when it's finished? Yeah, I'd read that. That sounds good. War II, 13,000 books on the occult were found in the Czech Republican library, apparently hidden there by Himmler's personal guard, but a couple of gems are in that lot. Hell yeah, I'd love to read them. Can't read German, but I'd like to see them. I wonder if there are any little black books. The Nazis did occupy certain North European regions in which that particular tradition was a thing. They may have confiscated all sorts of material on folklore, folk magic, herbal medicine, even actual spellcraft and things like that from the citizens in those countries. They may very well have done so. Himmler was a fanatical collector. It's funny, like with Indiana Jones, you know, the first one, they just talk about Hitler being a fanatic of the occult. No, that was Heinrich Himmler. He was obsessed with the subject to the point where Hitler thought he was nuts. Hitler didn't even like Himmler towards the end. He thought he was the hardliner. Adolf Hitler was actually the moderate in the Nazi circle with regards to certain ethnic and racial issues. Heinrich Himmler wanted to kill everyone. He was completely lost his mind. Hitler apparently, in private, Hitler literally considered him crazy. So Hitler thinks that you're too racist. Hozankai. Hitler asks Raisi, how did you get here? Raisi goes, and Iran into a mountain. I couldn't get away. I couldn't get away. I get the song reference. Wasted Bonehead. The Misfits, they don't seem fit to me. B-List History. New video on my channel analyzing Pennsylvania elections. Cool. Daimos117. Freeing Assange now is too little too late. The message has already been sent. I agree with you. Loud and clear. Don't report on state crimes or we will destroy your life. Unfortunately, that is the case. And if they were to let him out, he'd get shot immediately or something like that. They'd knock him off. It's rather sad. Most all armor is bulky. I have to wear a 9-pound vest 9 hours a day. My apologies, Challenger. Get something a little bit more streamlined, maybe. Although I don't know what line of work you're in. Maybe you have to wear thicker armor. I've got a level 3+ vest, and it's actually pretty light and comfortable to wear. Like, you know, and that'll take a 9 mil. It'll take a 357. It's soft armor, so, you know, it has some flex to it. It's comfortable to wear. Sometimes I just randomly wear it because it's fun. I already tested it, by the way. I made sure that it wasn't a Chinese knockoff that would not save my life. I figured it was a good idea to do that. Stormtrooper armor is plastoid alley composite, some kind of plastic bit of metal sandwiched some way. Yeah, it's interesting how the stormtroopers in Star Wars, the armor literally did nothing. Ewoks were killing them with rocks and sticks and things like that, and they were incapable of fighting back. There's a conspiracy theory about Star Wars that the stormtroopers were deliberately like reprogrammed, because they're all clones, at least originally, deliberately reprogrammed to facilitate in the first 3 movies from A New Hope through to facilitate Luke and others, basically, you know, shoot at him but don't hit him. Basically, there's a conspiracy theory about that, and it's one I'm actually slightly amenable to. It's more believable than the Jar Jar as the Dark Sith Lord storyline. Heritage Heirloom Seed Company, shout out to all the clankers. Hope everyone has a great weekend. Also, YouTube can be assholes sometimes. Lol. We have new batches of soap curing right now that I think everyone will love. I already love it. Cut me into a couple bars there. Yeah, it doesn't last forever, you know. And I limit the number of showers I take. Some people ask me, why is your hair so healthy? Because I don't strip it with chemicals every single day. I do as little to it as possible unless I get really sweaty and greasy, because I've got a phobia about having my hair in my face if it's wet in any way. And so if I do get all sweaty and stuff, like, I fucking hate it. Opinionated Junkie, Android or Apple for phones? Android. I would never use an Apple product. I don't believe in child slave labor. Let's see. YouTube is asshole. Yeah, sometimes they can be a big problem. Anyways, I'm going to go offline early. Again, I have to drench the garden, fertilize the garden, weed the garden, mow the garden. I've got editing to do. At some point, I should probably eat some solid food, although I will drink some V8 before I garden. You need a little bit of extra salt when you're sweating a lot. Yeah. By the way, thinking of Star Wars, one final aside, one random thought. I went through a period some years ago, you know, sort of when my career was first burgeoning. And every evening, I would watch Star Wars episode 1, 2, or 3, mostly 1 or 3, let's face it. Number 2 was not great. I liked some of the scenes, but, you know, I didn't like others. But I'd watch that and I would eat like Indian food. And so now when I think of Star Wars episode 1, I always think of Mutter Paneer. For some reason, I think of eating Indian food, like actual India, not Native American food, like the good stuff with all the peas and the paneer in it. I want to cook some. Mutter Paneer is certified good. That's about all.